Everybody involved. We're going to skip the hip cases and go to maybe the knees, since that's kind of what we just recently jumped on. How about this one? 66-year-old woman with left knee pain and deformity. Her BMI is 44 kilograms per meter squared. She's ambulatory with a walker, and she's had multiple corticosteroid injections in the past and has failed conservative treatment. And this is the X-ray that she presents. So basically, she has a valgus knee. I assume everybody on the panel will do a direct anterior approach to the knee, right? No posterior approach to the knee. Maybe Professor Ramos, can you would you do anything but a medial parapatellar approach to the knee? Some people have described using the lateral parapatellar approach to this valgus knee.
No, yo básicamente hago la incisión central, no hago la incisión lateral. Muchas ocasiones he tenido el problema justamente en hacer la vía lateral, que los tejidos no son de buena circulación, así es que yo no varío por más valgo que tenga justamente la incisión.
Anybody on the panel ever use a lateral parapatellar approach for a severely valgus knee? No. Oh, no. Okay. Rafa, what about distal femoral cut? Do you cut all your distal femurs at like 5 degrees of valgus, or do you individualize the distal femoral cut? Would somebody with a severe valgus deformity get a less valgus cut or more valgus cut?
En general trato de hacer un planteamiento preoperatorio para ver cuál va a ser el eje mecánico que quiero obtener, y en general en la rodilla muy valga sí tiendo a cortar menos fémur distal. En vez de 5 grados podría cortar 4 grados para tratar de corregir un poco más, especialmente en las pacientes que tienen aperturas mediales como esta. Dejarlas en valgos pues llevaría a que probablemente se siga estirando con el ligamento medial, entonces prefiero dejarlos un poco vanos para tratar de proteger el ligamento medial. Pero si lo haces, tienes que entender que las liberaciones laterales van a ser mayores, porque entre menos valgo cortes el fémur distal, pues más apretado va a estar el lado lateral, y por ende vas a tener que liberar más el lado lateral.
Well, what about your distal femoral resection? Do you change a distal femoral resection level for a valgus knee? Do you take 10 off the medial side all the time? Or?
Yeah, I still do. Well, you end up taking off so little from the lateral side, it's very hard to shape the lateral femur in these cases if you don't do enough, if you don't at least skin cut it. But I agree with Rafa. I usually go 4 degrees instead of 5, which, looking at her capacious canal, is still a bit of a sort of crapshoot. But I think the other thing is when you move on to the tibia, is taking a very thin cut on the tibia, because I think that speaks to what Rafa was saying about that wide gap medially that you're going to have to address in a minute with your lateral.
So you under-resect the tibia as opposed to under-resect the distal femur?
Yeah, because I want the flexion extension gaps to be similar, so I find that a little easier.
Anybody else do differently?
Cuando tienes un valgus tienes dos tipos de pacientes. Tienes un valgus con contractura de flexión y tienes un valgus con un recurvato. Cuando tienes a gente con valgus y recurvato, yo corto menos de la distal femoral. No tienes problemas de después, tienes recurvato 1 año, 2 años después de la operación.
Her leg is so big that you probably can't tell whether she's recurvato or not anyways.
In general.
Dr. Rocha, anything to add for that?
Yo creo que esto tiene un poco más de truco que otra cosa, porque no solamente es el valgo que tiene, sino tiene una apertura medial muy grande. Y a esa apertura medial muy grande, yo no me preocuparía tanto por el hueso que vaya a recortar, sino por la inestabilidad medial que tiene y por la competencia del ligamento colateral medial. 44 de índice de masa corporal, con un colateral medial insuficiente, ya estoy pensando en una constricción mucho más grande.
Thorsten, is this somebody in the endo clinic gets a hinge knee replacement, or is it something that you would try for a condylar total knee?
It depends all on the MCL. If the MCL is completely gone, then we do, of course, a hinge knee. In valgus deformities, we use a pure hinge knee, not a rotating hinge knee, because of the patella tracking. Because if you have the ability to rotate the leg a little bit, then you have a clear, strong or strict trend to lateralize the patella. So when I use a hinge in a valgus deformity, I use a pure hinge. But I mean, if the MCL is not gone, and this is for me a case at least because of the weight, because of the medial instability and valgus deformity, at least for CCK.
How is that decision made, Thorsten? Is that decision made at the time of surgery after you open the knee, or do you examine the patient before you set knife to skin?
Yeah, of course, I do the preoperative examination. We are always in cases like this, we do stress X-rays, and if we have the feeling that the MCL is too instable, too loose, then, as I mentioned, of course, two options, hinge or CCK, and intraoperatively, I see, can I really balance this knee? What's about the flexion gap at the end? And if I cannot balance the flexion gap at all, I go for a constraint one.
Right, okay. Going down the other end, Dr. Rocha, would you measure resect this knee, or if you were not to do a hinge, if you're doing a CCK or a condylar knee, would you use measure resection technique, or would you be able to gap balance this technique and maybe tell the audience how you would set femoral component rotation in this knee?
Yo creo que en general yo trataría de hacer algo híbrido, porque no sería solamente mission resection, sino también tendría que ser gap balancing. Y en general en todas, no solamente en primarias, sino en revisiones, uno no hace solamente mission resection y hace gap balancing, sino hace las dos. Porque uno tiene parámetros anatómicos para mirar alineaciones, pero también está mirando el estado de los ligamentos colaterales. Entonces yo creo que sería una combinación de los dos y lo denominaría híbrido, lo que haría yo.
But this would be a hard knee to use tensors from the get-go to try to get your rotation, wouldn't it? Anybody in the audience agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
No, ahí el problema es que después de que hagas el corte distal del fémur, el corte de la tibia, te toca hacer la liberación para obtener un espacio rectangular en extensión. Y eso inmediatamente te va a abrir también la flexión, y va a ser muy difícil hacer un gap. Yo que hago gap balancing en toda mi rodilla, es muy difícil hacerla sin después decir, sabes que creo que está mucho, pero uno tiene a moverla un poco, porque lo que va a pasar es que va a tener a rotar internamente mucho el componente femoral para poder tensionar el lado medial que está flojo. Termina uno con el componente femoral rotado internamente, la rótula que se requiere usar, y entonces tiene uno que tener que moverlo en rotación externa. Es muy difícil, yo diría que, y una de las cosas que yo diría aquí con este tipo de, hay que estar bien preparado siempre, pero yo utilizo una rodilla que tiene una tibia que es universal, que la puedo utilizar con una prótesis normal, constreñida o hasta una bisagra, y entonces tomo la decisión de qué componente femoral utilizar después de hacer todo, de preparar la tibia.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? Professor Rocha, to your point, not to over-rely and be blinded by one technique, and always be some kind of hybrid and use your checks to make sure that your rotation is right. Graham, let's say, you are going to try to make a go for balancing the knee. Can you kind of describe what your sequence of, you're going to do a minimal medial release, right? Because the medial side is already quite stretched out. I mean, what do you do to kind of balance the knee laterally, super tight laterally, try to shove in a 10 spacer block and it won't fit laterally?
No, I'm a measured resection, so I start with my resections, and then I use laminar spreaders. I'll use them in extension and see them balance, and then I'll use them in flexion.
Extension is tight, so what are you releasing there?
So I put my finger and I start feeling the tensed areas, starting from the front and the back, and just going from the patellar tendon all the way to the popliteus. Not touching the popliteus until the end point where that's the only thing that's stopping me from balancing.
And what do you use? Do you use a cautery to release
I
it?
use cautery. I find cautery much more precise in my hands when I use it.
And you holes into it?
No, I just release it in a straight line and align with the tibia, going from front to back. Anything that's tight, I put my finger behind it and I just kind of
At the
clobber
joint
it
line?
onto my finger.
Just at the joint line?
Yep.
Anybody else do anything different, like the pie crusting technique described by Install Ranawat?
Yeah.
15 blade?
I still do it the way we were taught. I start the other way around though, because I actually think that the posterior structures are tighter. So I start with the arcuate or the Y ligament in the posterior capsule underneath the popliteal tendon. And then I come around, and everyone says they pie crust. I mean, at the end of the day, you just shred everything, right? But I don't go beyond the blade or the bevel of the 15 blade.
Maybe you shred, I mean, we pie crust.
Well, I mean, you basically hit two condensations, and my impression, I'm not an anatomist, is that they're the LCL and the popliteal fibular ligament. I mean, there are two things.
How deep are you pie crusting? Can you tell us? I mean, you know,
I don't go beyond the bevel, so it's what is it, a half centimeter? Yeah.
Like, no, you don't want to go more than a centimeter for sure, right? Because that's kind of where the anatomics sort of says that the nerve can come as close as 7 millimeters, so you just have to be careful over there.
Correct,
Right?
correct. And the other thing is that I don't, in this case, you might have to release the IT band. I find often you don't have to release the IT band. So if you start at the back, you come around to the front, and that's often softer. Can I say one other? I mean, I externally rotate the tibia a little more too on these, and I think that changes some of the dynamics in the way the patella tracks.
Lo que iba a decir yo en este caso es que aquí va a ser casi imposible poder obtener una brecha en extensión balanceada. Uno tiene que llegar a un momento hasta que ya no le esté, lo que pasa es que la rodilla queda abierta como si estuviera así como digo yo, está como amarrada del lado lateral, y hasta que uno la suelta ya siente que ese resorte se suelta un poco, y en ese momento uno ya sabe que está balanceado. Pero si uno sigue haciendo el válido, el estrés en válido, se da cuenta que todavía el lado medial va a estar suelto y no puede seguir liberando el lado lateral porque no vas a poder balancear. Ahí en ese momento es que toma la decisión de hacer un componente constreñido y aceptar que el lado medial va a estar más suelto que el lado lateral.
So Rafa, I actually use a similar type of prosthesis you use in your primaries. I actually use a universal base plate, and I kind of cut the femur a little bit more valgus than I normally do, and I felt that I got the medial lateral side a little bit balanced. You could argue that maybe I wasn't critical enough, but this patient has done well. But just maybe to finish up as we kind of wrap up, let's say hypothetically, the patient rolls into the recovery room, and then you're kind of at home, and then you get a phone call from your resident saying that they've gone by and done the neurovascular checks, and then now the patient is not wiggling their toes. Professor Ramos, what do you think?
Por lo que veo quedó en valgo, entonces no estaría de acuerdo. Aquí, más bien yo iba a hacer una pregunta. Cuando tú tienes mucha tracción a nivel valgo, ¿cuándo hacen ustedes la desinserción ósea y transposición de la colateral lateral? ¿Cuándo toman una decisión de levantamiento del ligamento lateral?
O sea, yo no, la única indicación para mí es que no puedo balancear, está demasiado apretada, y lo que hago es una osteotomía del epicóndilo lateral. Yo no lo quito directamente del hueso, sino que lo dejo, y además simplemente lo dejo que se mueva un poco, o sea que ni siquiera lo dejas como medio suelto ahí. No le piso, no lo fijo, no. Además es preferible que no le deje para que se encuentre su sitio y eso queda bien. En cuanto a la pregunta que le hiciste al doctor Ramos, creo que la respuesta es, primero que todo, llamar enseguida y decirle por favor flexionen la rodilla, porque eso es lo primero. El hecho es que una rodilla válida como esta debe salir del quirófano con una férula en 30 grados de flexión hasta que le pueda examinar neurovascularmente y estar seguro. Segundo, cualquier daño neurológico posoperatorio de una rodilla, primero que todo se tiene que descartar un daño vascular, o sea, porque el síntoma más común de un daño vascular es que haya un pie caído, o sea, o que tenga un daño del nervioso. Entonces, después de que llame y le diga que flexione la rodilla, entonces soltarle también si tienen un vendaje, pues soltar el vendaje para ver si hay recuperación nerviosa. Pero esto sí, cuando me ha ocurrido una vez, se demoró como 6 meses en recuperarse.
Or so, yeah, so let's say, you know, it doesn't come back and then you follow the patients regularly, you know, every couple of weeks or so to try to counsel them. You know, what do you tell the patient, and then when do you do an EMG, or there's some reports about exploring the nerve and decompressing the nerve? I mean, any role for that, Thorson?
Yeah, there's a role for that, definitely. So it depends on many things. It depends on the degree of palsy. It depends on the onset of the palsy. If the patient wakes up and he has a palsy immediately, completely, first of all, everybody of us would do the flexion, like Rafa is doing. But if there is no improving, then I would talk to my neurosurgeon, and we would decompress the nerve.
During the same hospital, immediately after, like post-operative day 1 or 2, or like maybe post-operative day 14 or 30?
No, not too late, not so late. So if I see on the second, third day no improvement, nothing by flexion, by knee flexion, I would go in with my neurosurgeon and decompress the peroneal nerve. No, usually the problem is, it's not an overstretching of the nerve. It's the nerve is. If you see the anatomy, there is a arc, a fibrotic arc, where the nerve is going around. And then if you stretch the knee and if you straighten the knee, then at this edge of this fibrotic tissue, the nerve is tightened. And so, and then you have just to cut the fibrotic tissue and the nerve is free. It's a very easy surgery. I could do it, but the neurosurgeon can do it better than me.
Total femurs, how does it take care of those?
Has it worked? Have you had any experience with that? You know, obviously you've had some experience with that technique.
Yeah, we did some cases.
And do they all recover, or do they?
Yeah, so I would say 80% recovered. It's quite rare, to be honest.
Sure.
It's about 1 or 2 a year, but
Sure.
it happens, and sometimes it's needed.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, this lady actually woke up wiggling her toes. You know, she was pretty happy with the way her knee turned out, and there was no major problems. But I mean, I think one thing that I would like to point out is that this exam on anesthesia is very important. You know, you can kind of basically critically evaluate her X-ray. You can see how her lateral plateau is essentially like a hole where that femoral condyle falls into, and so a lot of that deformity was actually relatively correctable. You know, and so that's probably the reason why I kind of try to push the envelope with a non-constrained implant. You know, but